Welcome to the Sparkit podcast. I'm your host, Helen Kimaru, and today we are diving into a bold and controversial statement made by Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni after he suggested that Uganda should have ownership or at least direct access to the Indian Ocean. These comments have created a heated debate across East Africa about sovereignty, trade, international law, and the future of regional cooperation. To help us unpack the legal, economic, strategic, and political dimensions of these, I'm joined by our political analyst, Emmanuel Taban. Welcome back to the podcast, Emmanuel.
Thank you, Kimaru, and nice to see you again on the Spark It podcast. It's exciting always to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us once again. And for those who don't know, maybe those who are probably watching us for the first time, you should check out his podcast. It's called the Concerned Podcast on all platforms. He's a political analyst and he does a lot of commentary on politics, especially around East African countries. Yes, a lot of good things to check out there. So on today's episode, I know you had what Museveni said. You even I think did an episode about it. So we are
Right.
going to unpack that because for me, I have been I was watching what he said and then I would go to comment sections and read the things people were saying. And for me, it was funny. It was so hilarious. And people are like, oh, if he wants war, he can come and get it. So Emmanuel, you can get us started. What do you think about what Museveni said?
I, when I first saw the video,
Mm-hmm,
I thought maybe he was speaking in some kind of a. I mean, in English, they always have like these literary words where they don't really mean words directly. But
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
when I watched the video clearly, I realized that I think he really meant what he was saying. And
mm-hmm,
a few hours when he said that statement, I also went on the page of the Sun, who is the CDF, the Chief of
mm-hmm.
Defense Forces, and then it was like it will only take them like 48 hours or 8 hours just to take over Kenya. Like, I was like, what the hell is this? So when I
Yeah.
saw that statement, I didn't take it so serious. But when I
Mm-hmm,
saw the level of debate that that statement actually initiated, then I
mm-hmm,
started seeing that. I think
mm-hmm,
there is something that is really serious about this statement here,
mm-hmm.
and so many people were not happy, especially Kenyans. And you know how Kenyans are very
Yeah.
very they're always like very active online, and when they see things like that, oh man,
Mm-hmm,
they don't take it lightly. So they always go hard on you, and I saw many of them like going very hard against
mm-hmm,
President Yoweri and the son. Yeah, but it's if it is what really he meant, I think it's unprecedented. It's something that is uncalled for.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What has been like the most hilarious thing you've seen? Like what have people been saying?
I think when he said that that ocean belongs to me, some people were like, the moon also belongs to us.
Yeah.
Like, some people were like the moon also belongs to us, so no one should tamper with it. I was like,
And also,
oh,
someone says, I already miss the fish in Indian Ocean.
yeah. Yeah, there are
Ah,
so many hilarious comments actually came out
uh-huh.
after statement issued, and yeah, yeah, they are very
Yeah.
very hilarious and exciting
Mhm.
at the same time. Yeah. Hmm.
Actually, before we continue, I would love to read like a few. There's someone, even Ugandans actually chimed in into this conversation and they had a lot to say. Like someone said, we as Ugandans are protecting the gains. So every gain our president states, we have to get and protect. So anytime Kenya, we are coming for our ocean.
But it is funny how like when the president says
Mhm.
the ocean belong to him. I mean, Uganda is a landlocked country. It's very far
Yeah.
away from the Indian Ocean, only
Mhm.
connected through Tanzania and Kenya. So when the
Mhm.
president says that the Indian Ocean belongs to him, what does it mean? I mean, that could only mean that maybe he is trying to do some kind of maybe annex some part of Kenya that can lead him to the Indian Ocean, because there is
Mhm.
no way that Uganda is part of the Indian Ocean.
Yeah. True.
far detached away from the coast of the Indian Ocean. So
Mm-hmm.
there's no way Uganda can claim ownership of the Indian Ocean. Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
then another one says he didn't say it is for us Ugandans. He said it's his, please leave us alone.
And that's what even makes it worse when you say it is home. It looks like it personification. So he wants to
Yeah.
personalize the whole Indian Ocean trade. That even makes it more hilarious. You know, when you say
Yeah.
something of that kind is your personal property, I mean, it really doesn't
Mm-hmm.
make sense. But also, I think Uganda has a history of
Mm-hmm.
of uh, like annexation of parts of East Africa. You know,
That's
when you
true.
remember, especially under Idi Amin, that
Mm-hmm.
in I think that was in around 1976, when Idi Amin was the president of Uganda by then. There were
Mm-hmm.
similar claims where he wanted to annex some parts of Kenya. I think it was around the parts of Turkana. So he really wanted to annex that part, and then he sent a very strong message to the then president of Kenya, that is Jomo Kenyatta, of which Jomo Kenyatta was, I think, very strong. So he came out with a statement warning President Idi Amin not to play around with
Mm-hmm.
that, and they had even to deploy some troops at the border between Uganda and Kenya. So I think that's
Yeah.
when he backed down. But not
Mm-hmm.
only Kenya, there's also the reason why Idi Amin was overthrown from the presidency in 1976, 1979 when he fled
Mm-hmm.
the country. I think it's because of similar cases of wanting to annex some parts of Tanzania. There's a part of the Kagera River where he deployed his armed forces there. And by that time, he overthrew the president of Uganda by the names of Dr. Milton Obote. And Obote
Mm-hmm.
went and he stayed in exile in Tanzania. There are also some soldiers, I think, loyal to Obote, who were all exiled in Tanzania. So when
Mm-hmm.
he took his troop to annex part of Kagera in Tanzania, so what they did is Tanzania by then under President Julius Kabarenge Nyerere, they actually came and they fought against uh, Amin's forces. They chased them out of Tanzania up to Kampala. In fact, they had to come and up to Uganda with the help of the Tanzanian forces, and they chased out the president
Oh,
of Uganda. But then Idi Amin, he had to flee the country, and that is when
mm-hmm.
Obote was reinstated for his second presidency. So
Mm-hmm.
when Uganda has a history in that.
A
So
history. Yeah.
by that maybe President Museveni has forgotten nothing from what happened to Idi Amin by then. Yeah. So, but it's a very dangerous move, I think, that he is trying to make. Mhm.
Yeah, and also even with Lake Victoria, there's also been issues with the particular Migingo Island. For a long
Right.
time, fishermen from Kenya, like I think that island does not necessarily belong to Uganda or Kenya. They do share it, but fishermen from Kenya have always had trouble. Then there's always, even growing up, would hear those stories. There's always a back and forth between Kenya and Uganda about even who owns Migingo Island. So yeah, as you've said, it's like it's just something that has been ongoing, and even I think either it is Idi Amin or Museveni, they also said like parts of Kenya in the context of up to Naivasha. I think it was Idi Amin, up to Naivasha too was was part of Uganda, and you know Naivasha is so close to Nairobi, so it's like all that western region of Kenya could have been part of Uganda if they
Mhm.
had been serious about it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
Ah.
it's a serious one. It's a serious
Mhm,
case. Yeah.
mhm. So Uganda being like a landlocked country, what claim does it lay on the sea in the context of trade and stuff like this, or how does it work? Because it's a
I
landlocked country.
yeah,
Sorry.
I think like every country has for instance, when you look in constitutions of so many countries, you'll
Mm-hmm.
find that uh, in the initial stages of the constitution, like I mean, in the first articles, mainly they define the territories of countries. It defines, for instance, they'll say Kenya. The land Kenya includes maybe places like these, from extending to this, bordering these in the west, in the
Mm-hmm.
east, and
Mm-hmm.
and then the Indian Ocean, maybe like in many constitutions, it's always indicated there. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel Uganda as well has its territories that belongs to Uganda clearly indicated in their constitution, and so do other countries. But also, we do have, apart from being in individual countries, we often say that there's no country which is an island. I mean, countries have to coexist, and
Yeah.
in the move to do that, there are so many other initiatives that have been initiated, uh, like things to do with integrations, and that comes in where we have like the East African Community, which
Mm-hmm.
brings together like-minded countries like Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, Congo, all together. And there are always agreements that actually these countries have that forms that informs their coming together. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel there must be also some kind of rules on how these countries can relate when it comes to things of accessing the oceans, like what countries like Uganda, like South Sudan, that are
Yeah.
mainly detached from the coast, very important uh, uh, routes to the countries, how they engage with the country. So I think this is where the East African Community Park comes into play. I think it doesn't look really good when a country claim ownership of the other. I mean, in these years, we do have the territories of individual countries, where it's stated in their constitution. So
Mm-hmm.
whereas Uganda is a landlocked country, I think they Kenya. I don't think Kenya has ever denied them access to the Indian Ocean. Probably they
Mm-hmm.
have there's a way how they access the Indian Ocean through
Yeah.
Tanzania and Kenya. They can easily get their goods transferred to their country, and like uh, finance their economy through access to the Indian Ocean. But they can get it only through Kenya and
Yeah.
Tanzania. So claiming ownership of it as an individual nation and landlocked country, I mean, it's doesn't make any sense. Yeah, but I think they can
Yeah.
access it. Being members of the East African Community, they have rules on how they operate regarding access to maybe the ocean, and some of the ports that are in the oceans. Yeah, or in the
Yeah.
coastal
And
region.
yeah, and actually they do use the port of Mombasa. Yeah, they have access to the port of Mombasa, and a lot of times there's trade between the port of Mombasa and Uganda. There's always trucks moving around,
Mhm.
and the thing is, all these goods that go to Uganda that come from the port of Mombasa, when they get to Uganda, they're usually cheaper than what we as Kenyans who own a port actually like. These are expensive here in comparison to Uganda. So from an economic point of view, I wonder if they're doing so well, why do they still want like to sort of have ownership, yet when they use the port their stuff is cheaper and it passes through Kenya, but us we buy it expensively. Do you think that in an economic like they have like sort of an economic disadvantage, or this is just stories that Museveni is trying to make up?
I was there's one thing that I was thinking about this whole statement. The
Mm-hmm.
timing of the timing of the statement was, it made, I actually started thinking so deep, because
Mm-hmm.
when Museveni was issuing that statement, that was
Yeah.
the very day when he actually said about the two Kenyans who were actually detained in in in
Ah.
in Uganda.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Mm-hmm.
was the time when they were released, and then they were taken back to Kenya. And Museveni came out and said, actually, we had some two Kenyans who were under detention. We kept them, and we had that they are masters of mandamano or chaos. So we had to keep them in freezers and all kind of things. So, and
Oh.
that statement alone, I mean, that story was so popular on the Kenyan media, and kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, on the discussion on the internet was really, really so popular. And
Mm.
when I feel like, and also that was the same time when the issues to do with the Tanzanian elections were going on,
Mm.
right? And people were so confused about like what is going on exactly in East Africa.
Mm-hmm.
What are all these
Mm-hmm.
countries? And I feel like that statement issued by Museveni was deliberate, maybe to divert the major focus of the people
Ah.
from discussing
Mm-hmm.
about the abduction of the two Kenyans who were kept in freezers, but also the elections that was going on
In
in
Tanzania.
but yeah, in Tanzania. But that's what I was just like. I was thinking maybe they were trying to, because I mean, there was no even clear communication from the foreign ministry of Kenya. They never came
Mhm.
out and then like try to criticize the statement issued by the president. In fact, they were trying to support him, and that kept me thinking like, what is happening here? So I was
Mm.
thinking that maybe the reason why the president issued the statement that time was just to divert the attention of Kenyans from calling for accountability about these young men who were tortured in kept in Kura, but also the election, the sham election that was happening in Tanzania, of which
In
so many
Tanzania.
people did not agree with, and I
Mhm.
feel that people only like send their congratulation message to Samia Suluhu, and one of them was Ruto. But I also think
Mhm.
Museveni is so much even worried about the elections there because his country is going towards an election. So the whole story, I feel like it was just meant to divert the attention of the public from
Yeah.
discussing the major issues, and also you don't want like people to keep thinking and keeping eyes so much on the upcoming elections that is coming in Uganda very shortly.
Mhm.
So maybe that is the
Wow.
intention. Yeah.
Yeah, I think actually you could be onto something because I think with the use of social media now, right now, politicians are also becoming very good at it. They know how to spread propaganda and
Hmm.
divert you from the real issues. So you stop talking about people being, like being massacred in Tanzania or whatever was happening over there. So yeah, you are onto something. And that also brings me to, maybe this is a little bit off topic, but kind of related in a way. You've mentioned something about mandamano gurus and something like that. Do you think that East African countries right now view Kenyans as like, how do I put it? I like the words. They view us as a threat because we do speak up so much and we are always willing to show up. Are we like a regional threat to? Do they feel like we will influence their people and they will revolt against their governments, or what is happening?
I think so, but I don't really see Kenya as a threat, but rather I
Mm-hmm.
see Kenyans as an inspiration, especially in the entire East Africa
Ah.
region. But it is
Mm-hmm,
only the
mm-hmm,
politicians who look at Kenyans as a threat because they know the danger that comes with young people coming on the streets and calling for accountability. Of course, they have seen that
mm-hmm,
happen in different countries. And by the way, the protest that happened last year in Kenya has not only inspired protests across Africa, but even across the world. The protests
mm-hmm.
that happened in Nepal, the protests that happened in Bangladesh and all around the world, in
Yeah,
Madagascar, they are all this all came after the protest that was done in
in
Kenya. And
Kenya.
the
Yeah.
Kenyan protest actually inspired most of these protests. Before
Mm,
Kenya had what we call the Gen Z revolution or the Gen Z protest, there was never anything termed as the Gen Z protest, never. So that
mm-hmm,
only came after the Kenyan protest. So to me, Kenya has inspired so many young people across the world. So it's only the
mm-hmm,
politicians who look at Kenyans as a threat. But to me, I don't look at Kenyans like that. That's why when the President Samia Suluhu came and then she was like, she's well know that there are other people from other countries who came to protest, and even there are Kenyans who were kept they were arrested during. They claimed that Kenyans went and joined Tanzanians in protesting. uh,
mm-hmm.
yeah, but it's to me, it's only a section of politicians who look at Kenyans in that lenses. But to me, it's an inspiration. It's a good thing to call for accountability. It's a good thing to call out leaders when they're not doing their duty. It's a good
Mm-hmm.
thing to act according to your constitution. Your constitution has given you the right to protest and picket. So there's nothing wrong about you acting according to your constitution. So there's nothing wrong acting according to a constitution of a country. There's only those
Yeah.
people who occupy those positions who look at these young people as threat because they know when they come out in large numbers, they're likely to overthrow their governments. And when their governments fall, they're likely to fall as well.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, we take this opportunity to give all the young people from Kenya their flowers for inspiring a revolution around the world.
Right.
And come to think of it, I was watching some TikTok videos, I think yesterday, and I saw that is it a prime minister from Bangladesh who is being sentenced to death for what
Yeah,
happened
that's
there?
Bangladesh. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the
So you,
former prime minister actually.
mhm,
So
yeah.
he's sentenced to death.
Yeah, so I think change can happen. We just need to do something about it, and because we have the platform, we have the strength, we can advocate for ourselves. Then we definitely need to do something. And yeah, I would see why. I take your point on the aspect of inspiration. It works a lot better. Wow. And is there a real strategic or military justification behind Museveni's linking access to national defense, or it's just
Um, I don't think there's any why would Museveni want us to build a navy in the first place? I
Mhm.
I don't really think there's any country that is acting a threat to the security
Uh-huh.
of country through the seas and all these. So I don't think there's need for Uganda really to
Mhm.
build on a very strong navy at the moment. For what purposes? And yeah, and unless they are trying to engage in an international war scale, that's why they need. But if you're only aiming
Mhm.
at protecting the security of Ugandans, I mean, there's no if there's any country perhaps who wants to, there's need to build a navy, it's Kenya, because they are alongside the coastal region, I mean the Indian Ocean. So but still I don't see any need, because there's no any Kenya is not a threat to any country, and there's no any country that
Yeah.
is acting as a threat to Kenya at the moment. So
Mhm.
I mean, the claims by Museveni about building a strong navy, I mean, I look at them as like
It
a
doesn't
bit.
hold water.
It doesn't hold any water to me. Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. And come to think of it, do you think now that Museveni is vying for presidency once again for re-election in January, do you think that maybe some of these statements that he's been making lately could be because he wants to have that appeal on the people of Uganda, like, I'm taking care of you, I'm taking care of our, national interests or regional interests? Do you think that could be just it's just politics at the end
But
of the day?
but again, what relevance does owning the Indian Ocean like be to Ugandans, a common Ugandan? For what reasons? Like
Uh-huh.
there's, I mean, I don't see it like as something
Mhm.
important to that common Ugandan. You're talking about
Mhm.
owning the Indian Ocean. You're talking about building a navy. I mean, of what relevance is that to a common Ugandan who suffer? I mean, majority of Ugandans right now, they are really so much into finding jobs and all this kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
uh, speaking on an international scale, things maybe I don't think they really appeal to the young people or to the voters, not at all.
Mhm.
Yeah, he might be
Mhm.
seeking for re-election, but I think what he said, I don't look at it as being part of his campaign strategy, maybe to lure the voters to vote for him. Because
Mhm.
if he was talking maybe about accessing the Indian Ocean so they could have maybe access to importing and exporting their goods, so the economy of the country, maybe that's what I would say that he's trying to appeal to the voters. But just ownership of the Indian Ocean, I don't see it's very relevant thing to the common Ugandan.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow. And for any other landlocked African nation, should they have stronger guaranteed rights to the sea as a matter of regional equity and justice? Or how do you think people should actually work around it, especially like different countries that,
What I
yeah?
think is that, as a country, when you know that you're a landlocked country, all you
Mm.
have to do is you need to have a very good international. I mean, that you need to have very good foreign policies. That is one
Mm.
important thing,
Mhm.
especially how you deal with countries that are so much immediate or have immediate access to such a platform like the Indian Ocean. So if you are a landlocked country like Uganda, so I think you should be very strategic in developing very good foreign policies, having a very good regional relations with countries like Tanzania, countries like
Mhm.
Kenya have a very good relations, and you already they are already in a pact. I mean, through the EAC. So I mean, being a member of the East African community, you can initiate some kind of some relationship with Kenya, and come to a common sign memorandum of understanding based on something, and you can access the Indian Ocean in a very peaceful and good manner that does not pose a threat to
Yeah.
the territorial integrity of the other country. So I feel,
Mhm.
as a landlocked country, you don't have to pose threats to those countries that have immediate access to the ocean, but all you have to do is develop very appealing foreign policies that can easily lure your friends, those who have access to the oceans, to actually be your friends, and from there, that is when you can easily have access to the ocean, and you can reap the benefits from it, just like the country that has immediate access. So it's all
Mm.
about open good foreign relationship with foreign countries, and from there, that's how you can easily uh, get access to it, not through easing threats. Nah,
Mm-hmm. I
yeah.
totally agree. And now that we're talking about diplomacy, international relations, and trade and stuff like that, it reminds me of another time we talked about trade here. I think you were also in that episode. I can't remember which exact episode. Do you think like African countries, the reason like we don't have like good trade ties, which kind of makes it even hard to like for goods to be cheaper from one country to another. Like for instance, I'll give you an example. When we are traveling from one country to another here in Kenya, maybe I want to fly to Uganda. It's super expensive in comparison to people traveling from in Europe from one country to the other. And what can Africans do, especially in the context of maybe how can we improve trade to make it way better for Africans anyway?
I think in terms of improving trade, it it simply it starts with realizing your potential as a country.
Mm-hmm.
What are you endowed with? I mean, if you are good in agriculture, you have very fertile soil, then you specialize in agriculture. Make sure you
Mm-hmm.
produce abundance that can feed your country, but also that you can export. If you have
Mm-hmm.
abundance of resources, for instance, you have oil, then you have some other resources. How can you refine these resources to a finished good, and they can only be maybe taken to other countries? I think that is where we have to start with
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
discovering your potentials as a country. What are your countries endowed with, and harnessing all these resources, making good use of them, and perfect them that can meet international standard, and that's where you can export them. And so that, there are so many African countries. Africa is a very huge economy altogether
Yeah.
combined, very huge
Mm-hmm.
economy, but most of the goods and services perhaps that are being consumed in Africa are not produced within Africa. They're either gotten from other foreign or European or these American countries. So I think the reason
Mm-hmm.
is because we have not discovered our potentials. We have not harnessed them. We have not like make good use of them. But I think the first thing that we need to do to improve trade within Africa is to realize our potentials as individual countries, harness them and perfect them to meet international standard. We will learn that we will only not export these to other African countries, but even to European and these Asian American countries. It
Mm-hmm.
starts all with just finding out what our potentials are as individual countries. Yeah,
I totally agree. Yeah, and be more intentional about now working together as a block.
right, right.
Yeah. I was
Hmm.
looking up what Kenya had to say about Museveni's sentiments, and Musalia Mudavadi, the foreign affairs minister, said Kenya Kenya is a responsible member of the international community, and it is in our interest to facilitate any landlocked country that wishes to use the port of Mombasa. Mudavadi also said, and in any case, what would be the value of the port if it does not generate revenue? So in closing, what do you think what Museveni said like holds any water or it's just hot air?
Yeah, up to now, I think I'm failing to understand the intention of that statement exactly. Like,
Yeah.
if it is meant to, if he really meant what he said, or it was a diversionary statement, or
Mm-hmm.
he made it out of just like mistake, or what. I am failing to understand, because
Mm-hmm.
Uganda always has access to to the Mombasa port. They have, that's where they got goods into their country. They import goods, export, and I'm failing to understand that up to now why he issued
Mm-hmm.
that statement. Yeah, there's so many reasons that are actually coming up in my head right now, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, uh, to me, I think he might have. Museveni is a guy who speak out his mind freely at any time. He can say anything he wants. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't necessarily mean what he said. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
Until maybe he deploy armed forces in the Kenyan territory, we should not take him serious.
and Kenyans said they are going to defend it themselves.
I know Kenyans
They
will not
also
even
said
accept that.
they also said he doesn't know how powerful our army is.
Yeah, I think I saw some Kenyans. Some Kenyans like,
Uh-huh,
man, when it comes now to playing with our territory, I know we're
uh-huh.
saying Ruto one time, but if you try at this time, we'll first unite with Ruto before, and then chase you out. After chasing you, then we'll come and chase Ruto.
Yeah,
Yeah,
honestly, I think keeping up with East African politics,
yeah,
it's quite something. Honestly, I don't know,
it
and
is.
I, I don't know. I have also watched a lot of, maybe in closing, which is not related to this episode, but generally, what do you think about what happened in Tanzania?
Oh, what happened in Tanzania? It's a very unfortunate thing. I think.
Mm-hmm,
Um, I mean, it's clearly seen by everyone that the election was a sham election. It wasn't really done in a very free and fair manner, and
mm-hmm,
I think it speaks so much about the current administration. And my worry is that Samia Suluhu, within a very short time, has actually erased or has actually given Tanzania a very, very bad name. And this used to be a
mm-hmm,
country that was respected by so
mm-hmm,
many people. In fact, Tanzania is the only country in East Africa before Kenya that was highly
mm-hmm,
respected because the country produced so many good people, like so Julius Nyerere, John Pombe
mm-hmm,
Magufuli. These are all great people
mm-hmm,
who
mm-hmm.
had the, I mean, who really meant so well for their country. They upheld the principles of good governance. They wanted good things to happen not only for Tanzanians but the entire African continent. So I think Samia Suluhu coming with her own style of leadership, it's so ugly, and I feel that it's going to give her a very bad name internationally. I mean, internationally, she's not going to be a very good leader, and I feel it's gonna be a hard time for her to actually make some international visits this time around because
Mm-hmm.
people are just going to look at her as the most uh, female dictator that they have ever seen in the African country. I mean, going for an election and then you're locking all your opponents in prison. It's not something that is good
Yeah.
at all. It doesn't make, and there are so many people who got killed. I'm told. And some of them
Mm-hmm.
are not. The actual number is actually not even released
It's
by the government.
unknown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the government is still not even backing down. Try to charge those ones who participated in the protest for treason, which is still very harsh. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened in
Wow.
Tanzania, I think it's shameful, and it's also a shaming to all those who actually took their time, especially the leaders, to congratulate her for the victory. I mean, that clearly tells
Mm-hmm.
us that whosoever went to attend her inauguration and those who congratulated her, they are all birds of the same feathers. So probably there are people who believe in the style of leadership that she applied during this election. Yeah,
Wow. Honestly, yeah, our hearts go out to all Tanzanians. It's such a sickening and such a saddening thing to what happened in their country, and we hope in due time they'll get their justice, the peace will prevail, and things will be better. Because the other day I was talking to someone from there, and whatever she told me, it's really sad, honestly, being there right now. And there's people who are also even burying like pieces of cloth because they cannot find their loved ones. So yeah,
that's
it's
so bad.
sad. Yeah,
Really sad. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you, Emmanuel, for sharing your insights about Museveni. It's been
Thank you.
quite a great discussion, full of
Right.
humor. And for those people who don't know, again, Emmanuel has a podcast called the Concern Podcast. Actually, the hoodie you're wearing has the logo for the podcast.
No, 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 no.
Oh, I thought so. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
no.
you can check out his podcast on all platforms. Subscribe and share and follow him. And also, thank you for listening to our podcast episode and for engaging with us. We appreciate your support. Check us out on YouTube, on all other social media platforms, and any of your favorite podcasting platform. Until the next time, I've been your host, Helen Kimaru, joined by Emmanuel Taban. Bye.
Bye. True.